In this episode, we'll test the new Metal Foundry that we built in the previous episode. Hi folks, I'm Custom Chess for Roma Custom Bike and I welcome you to part 2 of the Metal Foundry Project. In the previous episode, if you missed it, check out the link in the description, we have built our new foundry using an IKEA vase, sand, refractory mortar and some steel wool. Now it's time to get ready for the fun part. Melting metal. Alright guys, we're finally ready to melt some metal. We have everything we need, starting from our foundry, our crucible, a muffin pan that we'll use to make some ingots, something to stir the metal with, a pair of pliers that we'll use to grab the crucible, we have our propane torch and a starting flame, and here we have some chips from working the CNC machine, aluminum chip that we'll use as a primary source of aluminum. We also have a bunch of stuff left over from the Triumph project. We have some gloves to protect our hands, and we're really ready to go. I'm so excited, so let's get melting. I want to get melting right away, but first I need to fill up the crucible with aluminum. No, what are you doing? No, it's not for eating, it's for melting. Okay, everything is ready. The foundry is ready, the crucible is ready, I'm ready. Let's start the show. Wait a minute though, I'm not sure that melting metal in a wooden shop is such a good idea, even with the fire extinguisher ready, so let's move it outside. Oh, much better. As you can see, I'm ready with all the gear to keep me safe. Face mask, heavy jacket, welding gloves. But still, please don't do any of these at home. Really, pretty please, don't do it. And if you do it, just be careful. I'm using a little torch as a starter flame. And there we go. Let's try this thing. I put on the lid to keep as much heat inside of the foundry, and after a few minutes I'm already curious to know what kind of temperature we have reached. The laser thermometer reads out about 430 degrees Celsius. Aluminum melts at 660 degrees Celsius, so we're not very far from it. I'll give it a little stir and wait a bit longer. Another 5 minutes have gone by and the temperature has gone over the limit of my little temperature gun. But it looks like it should be almost ready. The crucible is red hot, and by stirring the aluminum chips we can see that there are flames in there. But it doesn't look like anything is melting yet. So let's wait a bit more. Another 10 minutes have gone by and I can clearly see that the contents of the crucible are red hot, but not melting. I'm taking it to the limit, both the foundry and the not so appropriate tools that we are using, but I'm determined to see it through. At this point, it has got to be melting. Everything looks red hot, and after opening the lid, it almost seems to be staring at the sun. Yet, nothing seems to be melting. The chips seem to have hardened into rock, and so I figured to add a little bit more aluminum, you know, They say that the definition of insanity is to do the same thing and expect a different result. Well, I feel a bit insane right now. After almost 45 minutes of full blast, I decide to stop and try to assess what the hell is going on. Round 1, failure. I wait a few minutes to allow the foundry to cool off, and although the first attempt at melting aluminum failed miserably, I'm pretty happy to ascertain that the structure seemed to have held up pretty good. Upon further examination of the contents of the crucible, I realized that I might not have been able to melt aluminum, but I've definitely managed to make some rocks. And I don't care who you are, that's pretty nice right there. Before trying to figure out what went wrong, let me just take a second to thank you all for the support you demonstrate every day by hitting the like button, by sharing our videos on your social networks, and by subscribing to our channel. You can now click on the little bell to receive a notification when I publish a new video so that you can see them as soon as they're out. I would also like to invite you to visit our site called www.romacustomBike.com, where you can find our unique accessories and our t-shirts, because nothing is better than posting in the real world. At this point, I remember what I've learned during the making of the TIG welding episode. The reason because you cannot weld aluminum with a simple DC welder is because you need the AC current to remove the aluminum oxide present on the surface of the material. The oxide melts at 2000 degrees Celsius, 3600 Fahrenheit, while the aluminum melts at only 600 degrees Celsius, 1100 Fahrenheit. So, based on that, what I think happened is that the chips from the CNC, being really thin, had more surface than volume. Consequently, since the surface oxidizes very easily, I ended up with pretty much a bucket of aluminum oxide. This would explain the much higher temperature required to melt it and the resulting rocks instead of liquid metal. On the plus side though, we figured that our foundry can withstand over 2000 degrees Celsius, 3600 Fahrenheit, and that is good news. Now, to try to fix the oxide problem, I'm going to cut up a bunch of leftover aluminum plates. This plate was left over from my chain cover. It is 5 mm thick, so I better use the grinder to cut it down to pieces. I think that now I have everything for an hopefully more successful take 2. In the meantime, I rigged the studio microphone stand to hold the propane torch, freeing both of my hands for other operations. I've also cut up a piece of sheet metal to close the torch hole. This will help keeping the heat inside the foundry. This time I'm starting with an empty crucible. I will wait for it to heat up before putting in the aluminum. It takes just a few minutes for the foundry to reach the temperature and max out the laser thermometer. The crucible is red hot and I think it's time to start dropping in the scraps. I start with a 3 mm thick piece of aluminum and let's hope for the best. It takes not even a minute for it to start showing signs of softening until it collapses! And there we have it, finally, molten liquid metal! We have opened Pandora's box. Who is gonna stop us now? Another piece goes in, same size. The liquid at the bottom now serves as a media for transferring the heat to the new piece much quicker. In just a few seconds, it melts down.
This man operates like a killing machine.
So now another, and another, and another one. I want to fill it up good. Even a stick of 5mm thick aluminum disappears in just seconds. So now it's time for some faulty pieces that didn't come out that good, like this brake lever. Wow! It melts almost instantaneously. Very cool. This could be addictive. One last piece. I want to go for a 10mm square section rod, and look at it go. This is way too much fun. Now that we have enough liquid metal, I want to skim the impurities off the top so that we can be left with pure aluminum. Using the remains of my barbecue fork, I try to remove the top layer, where these impurities collect. And this is it. This is the moment of truth. I'm ready to pour the molten aluminum in the muffin pan. This could make or break this project. Look at it flow, still red from the heat. After flipping the muffin pan, I'm glad that I used a layer of dirt underneath it. The heat perforated the pan, and the sand contained the spill like a secondary mold. Otherwise, the aluminum would have flown straight onto the floor. I want to cool it off and pull out my very first metal muffin. Using my lovely persuader, I convinced the muffin to come out of the mold. There they are, my very first 2 pure aluminum muffins. I'm very proud of these. I have to tell you, after the first failure, I got pretty demoralized. But in the end, we got our first metal muffins. They're awesome and they pack some weight. Now we're gonna proceed with creating the mold for the actual objects we're gonna make for the bike. Stay tuned. Stay tuned indeed, because the next step will be to create a design that will fit onto the motorcycle so that I can make a 3D foam mold of it. Look at it flow, it's just so beautiful. Anyway, for this you will have to wait for the next episode, the third and final part of the Foundry project. So make sure to ring the bell to be notified when the next video will be published. Well, I'm very happy with this successful attempt at melting metal. And what do you think? Let me know by visiting our Facebook page called Roma Custom Bike ENG, or by commenting right here on YouTube. I'd like you also to visit our website called www.romacustomBike.com to find the accessories we've been producing and our t-shirt. We're very proud of this t-shirt. Well, that's it for now. I'm Custom Chess for Roma Custom Bike, and I'll see you next time.